Day 150, Royal Kingdom, 1 Kings 8, Ecclesiastes 3-5, Psalm 6. Let's begin. 1 Kings 8. Then all those greater by birth of Israel, with the leaders of the tribes and the rulers of the families of the sons of Israel, gathered together before King Solomon at Jerusalem, so that they might carry the ark of the covenant of the Lord, from the city of David, that is, from Zion. And all of Israel assembled before King Solomon, on the solemn day in the month of Ethanim, which is the 7th month. And all the elders of Israel arrived, and the priests took up the ark. And they carried the ark of the Lord, and the tabernacle of the covenant, and all the vessels of the sanctuary, which were in the tabernacle, and the priests and the Levites carried these. Then King Solomon, and the entire multitude of Israel, who had assembled before him, advanced with him before the ark. And they immolated sheep and oxen, which could not be numbered or estimated. And the priests brought in the ark of the covenant of the Lord to its place, into the oracle of the temple, in the Holy of Holies, under the wings of the cherubim. For indeed, the cherubim extended their wings over the place of the ark, and they protected the ark and its bars from above. And since the bars projected outward, their ends were visible from without, in the sanctuary before the oracle, but they were not visible farther outward. And they have been in that place even to the present day. Now inside the ark, there was nothing other than the 2 tablets of stone, which Moses had placed in it at Horeb, when the Lord formed a covenant with the sons of Israel, when they departed from the land of Egypt. Then it happened that, when the priests had exited from the sanctuary, a cloud filled the house of the Lord. And the priests were unable to stand and minister, because of the cloud. For the glory of the Lord had filled the house of the Lord. Then Solomon said, "The Lord has said that he would dwell in a cloud." Building, I have built a house as your dwelling place, your most firm throne forever. And the king turned his face, and he blessed the entire assembly of Israel. For the entire assembly of Israel was standing. And Solomon said, "Blessed is the Lord, the God of Israel, who spoke with his mouth to my father David, and who, with his own hands, has perfected it, saying, From the day when I led my people Israel away from Egypt, I did not choose any city out of all the tribes of Israel, so that a house would be built, and so that my name might be there. Instead, I chose David to be over my people Israel. And my father David wanted to build a house to the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. But the Lord said to my father David, Since you have planned in your heart to build a house to my name, you have done well by considering this plan in your mind. Yet truly, you shall not build a house for me. Instead, your son, who shall go forth from your loins, he himself shall build a house to my name. The Lord has confirmed his word which he spoke. And so I stand in place of my father David, and I sit upon the throne of Israel, just as the Lord said. And I have built a house to the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. And there I have appointed a place for the ark, in which is the covenant of the Lord that he struck with our fathers, when they went forth from the land of Egypt. Then Solomon stood before the altar of the Lord, in the sight of the assembly of Israel, and he extended his hands toward heaven. And he said, Lord God of Israel, there is no God like you, in heaven above, nor on the earth below. You preserve covenant and mercy with your servants, who walk before you with all their heart. You have fulfilled, for your servant David my father, that which you said to him. With your mouth you spoke, and with your hands you completed, just as this day proves. Now therefore, O Lord God of Israel, fulfill, for your servant David my father, that which you spoke to him, saying, There shall not be taken away from you a man before me, who may sit upon the throne of Israel, if only your sons will guard their way, so that they walk before me, just as you have walked in my sight. And now, O Lord God of Israel, establish your words, which you spoke to your servant David my father. Is it then to be understood that truly God would dwell upon the earth? For if heaven, and the heavens of heavens, are not able to contain you, how much less this house, which I have built? Yet look with favor upon the prayer of your servant, and upon his petitions, O Lord my God. Listen to the hymn and the prayer, which your servant prays before you this day. So that your eyes may be open over this house, night and day, over the house about which you said, My name shall be there, so that you may heed the prayer that your servant is praying in this place to you. So may you heed the supplication of your servant and of your people Israel, whatever they will pray for in this place, and so may you heed them in your dwelling place in heaven. And when you heed, you will be gracious. But if any man sins against his neighbor, and he has any kind of an oath by which he is bound, and he arrives because of the oath, before your altar in your house, you will hear in heaven, and you will act and judge your servants, condemning the impious, and repaying his own way upon his own head, but justifying the just, and rewarding him in accord with his justice. And if your people Israel will have fled from their enemies, because they have sinned against you, and doing penance and confessing to your name, shall arrive and pray and petition you in this house, listen in heaven, and forgive the sin of your people Israel, and lead them back to the land which you gave to their fathers. And if the heavens have closed, so that there is no rain, because of their sins, and they, praying in this place, shall do penance to your name, and shall be converted from their sins, by occasion of their afflictions, hear them from heaven, and forgive the sins of your servants and of your people Israel, and reveal to them the good way, along which they should walk, and grant rain upon your land, which you have given to your people as a possession. Then, if famine rises over the land, or pestilence, or corrupt air, or blight, or locust, or mildew, or if their enemy afflicts them, besieging the gates, or any harm or infirmity, or whatever curse or divine intervention may happen to any man among your people Israel, if any one understands, having been wounded in his heart, and if he will have extended his hands in this house, you will hear in heaven, in your dwelling place, and you will forgive. And you will act so that you give to each one in accord with his own ways, just as you see in his heart, for you alone know the heart of all the sons of men. So may they fear you, all the days that they live upon the face of the land, which you have given to our fathers. Moreover, the foreigner too, who is not of your people Israel, when he will have arrived from a distant land because of your name, for they shall hear about your great name, and your strong hand, and your outstretched arm everywhere, so when he arrives and prays in this place, you will listen in heaven, in the firmament of your dwelling place, and you will do all the things for which that foreigner will have called upon you. So may all the peoples of the earth learn to fear your name, just as your people Israel do. And so may they show that your name has been invoked over this house, which I have built. And if your people have gone out to war against their enemies, along whatever way you will send them, they shall pray to you in the direction of the city, which you have chosen, and toward the house, which I have built to your name. And you will hear in heaven their prayers and their petitions, and you will accomplish judgment for them. But if they sin against you, for there is no man who does not sin, and you, being angry, deliver them to their enemies, and they will have been led away as captives to the land of their enemies, whether far or near. And if they do penance in their heart, in the place of captivity, and having been converted, make supplication to you in their captivity, saying, We have sinned, we acted unjustly, we committed impiety, and they return to you with all their heart and all their soul, in the land of their enemies, to which they have been led away as captives, and if they pray to you in the direction of their land, which you gave to their fathers, and of the city, which you have chosen, and of the temple, which I have built to your name, you will hear in heaven, in the firmament of your throne, their prayers and their petitions, and you will accomplish their judgment. And you will forgive your people, who have sinned against you, and all their iniquities, by which they have transgressed against you. And you will grant to them mercy in the sight of those who have made them captives, so that they may take pity on them. For they are your people and your inheritance, whom you have led away from the land of Egypt, from the midst of the furnace of iron. So may your eyes be open to the supplication of your servant, and of your people Israel. And so may you heed them in all the things about which they will call upon you. For you have separated them to yourself as an inheritance, from among all the peoples of the earth, just as you spoke by Moses, your servant, when you led our fathers away from Egypt, O Lord God. And it happened that, when Solomon had completed praying this entire prayer and supplication to the Lord, he rose up from the sight of the altar of the Lord. For he had fixed both knees upon the ground, and he had extended his hands toward heaven. Then he stood and blessed the entire assembly of Israel in a great voice, saying, Blessed is the Lord, who has given rest to his people Israel, in accord with all that he said. Not even one word, out of all the good things that he spoke by his servant Moses, has fallen away. May the Lord our God be with us, just as he was with our fathers, not abandoning us, and not rejecting us. But may he incline our hearts to himself, so that we may walk in all his ways, and keep his commandments, and his ceremonies, and whatever judgments he commanded to our fathers. And may these my words, by which I have prayed before the Lord, be near to the Lord our God, day and night, so that he may accomplish judgment for his servant and for his people Israel, throughout each day. So may all the peoples of the earth know that the Lord himself is God, and there is no other beside him. Also, may our hearts be perfect with the Lord our God, so that we may walk in his decrees, and keep his commandments, as also on this day. Then the king, and all of Israel with him, immolated victims before the Lord. And Solomon slew sacrifices of peace offerings, which he immolated to the Lord, 22,000 oxen, and 20,100 sheep. And the king and all the sons of Israel dedicated the temple of the Lord. On that day, the king sanctified the middle of the atrium, which was before the house of the Lord. For in that place, he offered holocaust, and sacrifice, and the fat of peace offerings. For the bronze altar, which was before the Lord, was too small and was not able to hold the holocaust, and the sacrifice, and the fat of the peace offerings. Then Solomon made, at that time, a celebratory festival, and all of Israel with him, a great multitude, from the entrance of Hamath to the river of Egypt, in the sight of the Lord our God, for 7 days plus 7 days, that is, 14 days. And on the 8th day, he dismissed the people. And blessing the king, they set out for their tents, rejoicing and cheerful in heart over all the good things that the Lord had done for his servant David and for his people Israel. Ecclesiastes 3-5. All things have their time, and all things under heaven continue during their interval. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pull up what was planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to tear down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones, and a time to gather. A time to embrace, and a time to be far from embraces. A time to gain, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to rend, and a time to sow. A time to be silent, and a time to speak. A time of love, and a time of hatred. A time of war, and a time of peace. What more does a man have from his labor? I have seen the affliction that God has given to the sons of men, in order that they may be occupied by it. He has made all things good in their time, and he has handed over the world to their disputes, so that man may not discover the work which God made from the beginning, even until the end. And I realize that there is nothing better than to rejoice, and to do well in this life. For this is a gift from God, when each man eats and drinks, and sees the good results of his labor. I have learned that all the works which God has made continue on, in perpetuity. We are not able to add anything, nor to take anything away, from those things which God has made in order that he may be feared. What has been made, the same continues. What is in the future, has already existed. And God restores what has passed away. I saw under the sun, instead of judgment, impiety, and instead of justice, iniquity. And I said in my heart, God will judge the just and the impious, and then the time for each matter shall be. I said in my heart about the sons of men, that God would test them, and reveal them to be like wild animals. For this reason, the passing away of man and of beast is one, and the condition of both is equal. For as a man dies, so also do they die. All things breathe similarly, and man has nothing more than beast, for all these are subject to vanity. And all things continue on to one place, for from the earth they were made, and unto the earth they shall return together. Who knows if the spirit of the sons of Adam ascend upward, and if the spirit of the beasts descend downward? And I have discovered nothing to be better than for a man to rejoice in his work, for this is his portion. And who shall add to him, so that he may know the things that will occur after him? I turned myself to other things, and I saw the false accusations which are carried out under the sun, and the tears of the innocent, and that there was no one to console them, and that they were not able to withstand their violence, being destitute of all help. And so, I praised the dead more than the living. And happier than both of these I judged him to be, who has not yet been born, and who has not yet seen the evils which are done under the sun. Again, I was contemplating all the labors of men, and I took notice that their endeavors are open to the envy of their neighbor. And so in this, too, there is emptiness and superfluous anxiety. The foolish man folds his hands together, and he consumes his own flesh, saying, "A handful with rest is better than both hands filled with labors and with affliction of the soul." While considering this, I also discovered another vanity under the sun. He is one, and he does not have a second, no son, no brother. And yet he does not cease to labor, nor are his eyes satisfied with wealth, nor does he reflect, saying, "For whom do I labor and cheat my soul of good things?" In this, too, is emptiness and a most burdensome affliction. Therefore, it is better for two to be together, than for one to be alone. For they have the advantage of their companionship. If one falls, he shall be supported by the other. Woe to one who is alone! For when he falls, he has no one to lift him up. And if two are sleeping, they warm one another. How can one person alone be warmed? And if a man can prevail against one, two may withstand him, and a threefold cord is broken with difficulty. Better is a boy, poor and wise, than a king, old and foolish, who does not know to look ahead for the sake of posterity. For sometimes, one goes forth from prison in chains, to a kingdom, while another, born to kingly power, is consumed by need. I saw all the living who are walking under the sun, and I saw the next generation, who shall rise up in their places. The number of people, out of all who existed before these, is boundless. And those who will exist afterwards shall not rejoice in them. But this, too, is emptiness and an affliction of the spirit. Guard your foot, when you step into the house of God, and draw near, so that you may listen. For obedience is much better than the sacrifices of the foolish, who do not know the evil that they are doing. You should not speak anything rashly, nor should your heart be hasty to present a word before God. For God is in heaven, and you are on earth. For this reason, let your words be few. Dreams follow many worries, and in many words foolishness will be found. If you have vowed anything to God, you should not delay to repay it. And whatever you have vowed, render it. But an unfaithful and foolish promise displeases him. And it is much better not to make a vow than, after a vow, not to fulfill what was promised. You should not use your mouth so as to cause your flesh to sin. And you should not say, in the sight of an angel, there is no providence. For God, being angry at your words, may scatter all the works of your hands. Where there are many dreams, there are many vanities and innumerable words. Yet truly, you must fear God. If you see false accusations against the indigent, and violent judgments, and subverted justice in the government, do not be surprised over this situation. For those in high places have others who are higher, and there are still others, more eminent, over these. But finally, there is the king who rules over the entire earth, which is subject to him. A greedy man will not be satisfied by money, and whoever loves wealth will reap no fruit from it. Therefore this, too, is emptiness. Where there are many riches, there will also be many to consume these things. And how does it benefit the one who possesses, except that he discerns the wealth with his own eyes? Sleep is sweet to one who works, whether he consumes little or much. But the satiation of a wealthy man will not permit him to sleep. There is even another most burdensome infirmity, which I have seen under the sun, wealth kept to the harm of the owner. For they are lost in a most grievous affliction. He has produced a son, who will be in the utmost destitution. Just as he went forth naked from his mother's womb, so shall he return, and he shall take nothing with him from his labors. It is an utterly miserable infirmity that, in the same manner as he has arrived, so shall he return. How then does it benefit him, since he has labored for the wind? All the days of his life he consumes, in darkness, and with many worries, and in distress as well as sadness. And so, this has seemed good to me, that a person should eat and drink, and should enjoy the fruits of his labor, in which he has toiled under the sun, for the number of the days of his life that God has given him. For this is his portion. And this is a gift from God, that every man to whom God has given wealth and resources, and to whom he has granted the ability to consume these, may enjoy his portion, and may find joy in his labors. And then he will not fully remember the days of his life, because God occupies his heart with delights. Psalm 6. In parts according to verses. A Psalm of David. For the octave. O Lord, do not rebuke me in your fury, nor chastise me in your anger. Have mercy on me, Lord, for I am weak. Heal me, Lord, for my bones have become disturbed. And my soul has been very troubled. But as for you, Lord, when? Turn to me, Lord, and rescue my soul. Save me because of your mercy. For there is no one in death who would be mindful of you, and who will confess to you in hell. I have labored in my groaning. Every night, with my tears, I will wash my bed and drench my blanket. My eye has been troubled by rage. I have grown old among all my enemies. Scatter before me, all you who work iniquity, for the Lord has heard the voice of my weeping. The Lord has heard my supplication. The Lord has accepted my prayer. Let all my enemies be ashamed and together be greatly troubled. May they be converted and become ashamed very quickly.